everybody, a warm welcome to Wisdom from North. I'm Jannecke, and today we're going to speak about the power of our breath. Now, ancient spiritual traditions have always emphasized the importance of breathing properly. And today I'm here with Anders Olsson, who is a breathing instructor, and he's the author of this book, The Power of Your Breath. And he has really delved into this topic and has found that by breathing properly and more consciously, not only can we reshape our bodies and our face and better our health and our sex life, it can also help us in our spiritual development. Hello, Anders. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good.
I'm excited about speaking about the breath today because it's something that's so obvious, but still we don't speak about it too much and we're not so aware of it because it's just there. But you have written a book about it and you're talking about all the benefits of being aware of our breathing and that we also need to learn how to breathe. And that's in a way a paradox for me because we are breathing all the time.
Yes, we are, indeed. If we stop breathing, we die. We all know that. And this is not what the power of breath is about. It's more about your breathing habits, your daily breathing habits, the 1,000 breaths you take each hour. How do you take them? Do you take them in a stressful, fearful fashion or in a tense fashion? Because at the end of the day, our breathing patterns is a reflection of our state of mind, of our emotions, of our body. So if we have a tense body, we will have a tense breathing. If we have a stressed mind, we will have a stressed breathing. Like high up in the chest, fast, maybe the mouth is open. Or if we are afraid, we may hold our breath. So the idea with conscious breathing is that you take this understanding, okay, the breath is a reflection of the state inside. And you take charge of your breathing. You start to breathe consciously, and basically it's just to breathe in the opposite fashion. If you have high chest breathing, fast breathing, open mouth breathing, you just close your mouth, you slow down your breathing, and you start to breathe down into your belly. And for most people, my experience is that very few are born with poor breathing habits, but over time, when we live our life, we are exposed to all these stimuli, which is crazy, compared to just 100 years ago. And then we start to form new habits, which we can see in our breathing patterns, that they start to become poorer and poorer. We start to breathe more, we start to hold our breath more. And thereby we are basically depriving our body of the life-sustaining oxygen, because as I just said, if we stop breathing, we die, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why we die is because we are so dependent upon oxygen. So if we stop breathing, we will just survive for a few minutes. Mm. And why are we so dependent upon oxygen then? It is because we need it in order to produce energy. So basically, when we stop breathing, we die because of oxygen deficiency, which in turn then leads to energy deficiency. So you can say that we die of lack of energy. Mm.
I just noticed that you're actually breathing through your nose in between talking.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that I'm not. I breathe through my mouth. So let's talk a little bit about how you suggest that we breathe, because I understood that it's actually not healthy breathing through your mouth.
No, it's not.
That was a surprise. I can understand it, but I didn't know.
I'm glad you noticed, by the way, that I'm inhaling through the nose while talking. Yeah. Really, the mouth is for eating, the nose is for breathing. And what happens when we take in the air through the mouth, it's that it's unfiltered, it's cold usually, because we have 37 degrees Celsius in our body. And most of the time, the air we inhale is colder than that. Mm-hmm. And it's also dry, because in the lungs, they are 100% moist. and usually the air we inhale is not that moist. So when we take it in through the mouth, it's full of particles, full of bacteria, stuff in the air, and it's dry, and it's compared to what happens in the nose then, where the air is warm, it's humidified, and a lot of the particles in the air is trapped in the nose. So it's really the first line of defense, you can say, for the lungs, the nose. So when we take in the air through the mouth, we bypass that line of defense. So the lungs are exposed to this not so nice air. It's similar to if you were to choose between eating a chicken that is cooked, prepared, or that is raw. I think most of us would choose the prepared chicken. And if we were to ask the lungs, how would you like to have the air served? We're talking about 10 to 20,000 liters in one single day. Probably
That we breathe in?
That we breathe in,
wow.
Yeah. Probably the lungs would say, I would like to have the air prepared, which is what happens in the nose.
But what if our nose is like stuffed? You know, some people have, what do you call it in English? I didn't have a better word for it, but...
A stuffy nose,
yeah. A stuffy nose, that they need this nose clearer or something to like open the nose. That many have that problem,
many
and then
do, yes.
It's really difficult just to breathe through the nose.
So in my book, then, we have to start to ask the question, why is my nose blocked? It's not because I have lack of this medication, right? It's because something else. And I think the expression is good to use here. If you don't use it, you lose it. Oh. So your nose becomes blocked if you are not using it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And one reason is because we upset the carbon dioxide oxygen balance in our body. Oxygen is taken in from the outside when we inhale. When we exhale carbon dioxide. So the breathing, maybe we haven't even heard about carbon dioxide. And if we have, maybe we have heard that, yeah, sure, oxygen is the good thing. Carbon dioxide is just a waste product. Just get rid of it as soon as possible. But that's not the case. It's never the case. It's about balance. We know that a car needs fuel, right? If it gets too little, the engine will stop. But the same will happen if it gets too much. So what happens when we breathe through our mouth, we take in too much oxygen, and at the same time we exhale too much carbon dioxide. So we get too much oxygen in our body and too little carbon dioxide. And this imbalance means that actually the effect in the body gets reversed. We deprive our body of oxygen because the oxygen stays in the blood. In order for the oxygen to leave the blood, carbon dioxide is needed. So when the levels of carbon dioxide are low, then we have all this oxygen in the blood, and then we just exhale it again. So we basically deprive our muscles, our brain, our liver, our heart of the oxygen when we overbreathe. And what the body is doing then, it's trying to prevent the outflow of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide only leaves the body when we exhale. So a wise decision from the body then is to block our nose, to try to prevent the outflow. Or we may get narrow airways, and we may get a diagnosis of asthma or allergies.
Okay.
So when we start to slow down our breathing, so we start to get into balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, then this is not needed. So we start to experience a freer nose.
It's so connected, I must say, to mindfulness and spiritual development, because when you become aware of your breathing, you immediately get back to the moment. You are naturally slowing down.
Yes, you become more present.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
But let me ask you, I was thinking about this the other day when I was jogging.
Yeah.
I realized that I was breathing through my mouth, and I tried to breathe through my nose, and it was almost impossible. I mean, I needed more air.
Yes.
Any suggestions?
Well, the two most common mistakes we do, we try it once, we try it at the same intensity as normal. And if we, for example, apply the same strategy, we buy a gym card, okay, now I'm going to the gym, and then we go there once, and we train like crazy, and then the next day we wake up with a complete ache and pain in our body, and we think, no way, I'm not going to the gym anymore. We realize that we have to go there continuously. We have to build up our strength, build up our fitness level. And I think the same goes here when trying to establish nasal breathing while jogging. You have to try more than once, you have to slow down. So let the breathing...
Slow down my jogging?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and if you think of it like this, if you start to slow down your jogging, it won't take long before you are up at the same speed.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go back to how we can breathe more properly, because you mentioned, we just talked before the interview about like 5 steps or something that you could remind yourself of with the breathing, and we were speaking about one of those. That's breathing through the nose,
Yes.
in and out from the nose, and then breathing more slowly was the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true. So basically 5 simple principles. It's not rocket science, it's that simple. The nose, breathing slowly, breathing deep, but I'm tend to not saying deep, but rather low, using our diaphragm. That's our breathing muscle, our main breathing muscle. So when we're now sitting at rest, about 80% of the muscular activity should be performed by the diaphragm. That's the most efficient way of moving the air in and out. But most of us, we are not using the diaphragm that much. So we are using our accessory muscles in the rib cage, in the back, in the neck. And at some point, they are not designed to be constantly active. And we may get a pain in those muscles. So actually, maybe some of you haven't heard about the diaphragm, but it's just as important as the heart. Those 2 muscles are the only 2 muscles that never rest. They are constantly active. So when I say low instead of deep, because if you ask a person, take a deep breath, usually they take a big breath, but deep is not big. It's just that the air should enter the lower part of the lungs, because that's far more efficient. Okay. And regarding having a slow breathing, if you picture yourself Dalai Lama sitting there meditating, for sure he's not breathing. He has a slow breathing. So we can all relate to that, I think. When we are stressed out, we are breathing more fast, and when we are present here and now, when we are relaxed, we have a slow breathing. And the 4th principle is that the breathing should be rhythmically.
Oh.
And that is because we have this tendency, a text message. Oh, who was that entering the door? You know, that's a response from, oh, there is a tiger. Right. We have to wake up our body.
I was just thinking about it. Isn't that natural? Isn't that kind of something that is important for us to have that mechanism, that fight or flight system?
Yes, and it has probably helped us a lot during evolution to survive different situations. But today, I think we are put into fight, flight, freeze so many times each day, and basically we have this survival mechanism that has helped us through evolution, but today it's not really helping us, because before we knew, okay, there is a tiger, and we could run away from it, and we knew, okay, first there is a danger and then the danger is gone. But now we cannot really tell, you know, the incoming email or the boss yelling at us, or when is there a danger and when is it gone. So we are more or less spending a lot of our time in fight, flight, freeze. And I think we have two choices. Either we could, move out in the forest and don't expose ourselves to all these stimuli, or I think that's not an option for most of us. Or we can stay in the society and try then to learn to be exposed to all these stimuli, but without losing the presence. And I think we have the ability to find that in our breath, to take us basically back to the baseline. And for me, the center, getting back to the center, to our inner core, is by just focusing on the exhalation. My favorite exercise is the breathing anchor. And if you think that this is the reaction when we are entering into fight flight. Oh, there is a tiger. And then, we sigh in relief. The danger is gone. And we basically are then prolonging our exhalation. So this breathing anchor exercise is to prolong our exhalation, because exhalation is tied to relaxation, just like in this. But also if we measure the pulse, for example, we can see that inhalation, not necessarily like I did now, but just a normal inhalation will increase the pulse. It will take you more to fight, flight, freeze, and then exhalation will decrease the pulse. You will slow down, and it will take you more to the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, the rest and digest. So when you do the breathing anchor, it's basically to return to the baseline, to center yourself, to focus on the exhalation, you prolong it, and then automatically the inhalation will enter. You can almost feel that it's an anchor going down, 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 down to your navel. Mm-hmm. And when you do this, also you will slow down your breathing, and you will also get a more rhythmical breathing.
Mm. So that was the fourth, or the
yes, yeah, the fourth, yeah.
So we have one more.
One more. That is quiet breathing, and you may ask, what the heck is that? But every time we make a sound, we are also moving air in and out from our lungs. So when we tend to do a lot of different sounds.
But that is to clear our voice, isn't it? Or everything that's stuffed there. Like
yes, but
I can recognize that as a singer.
Yes, but again, the question is then, why am I doing that? Do I have to do it? Mm-hmm. And when you start to become aware of that, you are making all these noises, and when you sleep, that is snoring. That's another noise. So all these sounds means that we are moving air in and out through the lungs, and they pass the vocal cords. And those breaths are not particularly good. When we sigh, we make a sound, and we are then breathing. So
and that's not good to sigh.
Not particularly. No, okay. It's a sign of hyperventilation. Oh. A lot of us go around hyperventilation. Okay. We basically hyperventilate 1 second, and then we hold our breath the next second. When we concentrate, when we are under time pressure, it's almost impossible to keep those good breathing habits. Mm.
So what are the benefits? I mean, I spoke a little bit about it in the beginning, and it says here, the secret key to reshaping your looks, body, health, and weight. And I saw this picture of this guy in this book that looked, like a normal, cute guy when he was young, and then like something happened with his jaw when he grew older, because he had been breathing improperly or not good. So can you tell us a little bit about how breathing like you do can like reshape our bodies?
Well, it goes across everything, right? We can look at breathing and its relation to different health issues like heart problems, low energy, sleep problems, pain, and cancer, and we can look at it from perspective of athletic performance or, as you mentioned earlier, spiritual growth. So really, breathing goes across everything, and in relation to the.
But I didn't think it could change our looks. That was like a stretch for me to see.
Yes. But think about the tongue. It's our natural retainer. We have it with us 24/7, and the tip of the tongue should rest behind the front teeth, in the maxilla, in the upper part of the mouth. And when we are mouth breathing, we don't have the tongue there. Then it will affect our breathing. So it either stays in the middle of the mouth or down in the roof. No, in the lower part of the mouth. And then the tongue will not stimulate this bone, the maxilla. The upper teeth are attached to the maxilla, and this bone actually gives shape to the whole face. It goes out to your chins and up to your eyes. So 2/3 of the eyes rest in the maxilla. And every time we swallow, which we do about 2,000 times per day, someone has counted, I don't know, but then if the tongue is there where it should be in the roof of the mouth, then it will go up and it will stimulate the maxilla. So the maxilla, this bone, will grow in width and forward. But if we have the tendency to mouth breathe, that stimuli will not occur, and there is a risk then that the maxilla will not develop, so it will be more narrow and it will be more retracted, which means that it will not only affect our facial features. We may have, instead of having a U-shaped set of teeth in our upper teeth, they be more V-shaped, because these muscles, they will exert some pressure on the teeth, and they will then, we may need to extract teeth, or we may need retainers. So that is one thing. It can affect our looks, and we may get a more elongated face with mouth breathing.
Okay.
Yes. And that is one thing, the looks. But the other thing is also that it will affect the airways. They will be more narrow. So the spine, the neck here, the vertebrae there they are still in place there. But if the development is not going forward, there will be a less room for the air to pass.
So I'm thinking immediately, like, how can I improve my breath? Does it help just, or is it enough just to think about it? Or do I need, equipment? Because this is something you sent me in the mail.
Yes.
And I haven't tried it yet, because I wanted you to show me what it is and what's the purpose of it.
Many people think that it's possible to just, I think about my breath and then I'm done. And I was the same before. When I first had a look at the similar device to that one, I thought it was totally ridiculous. I refused to use it. But then after a few months, I decided to give it a go. And then I realized, oh, wow, whenever I concentrate in front of a computer, I skip breathing. I hold my breath, I tense up. And I recently did a study on my own, because I'm very curious. I love to understand things. And despite the fact that I've been doing breathing retraining for now 7 years, and I improved my breathing habits as well as it has changed my life. I improved my life immensely. I have much less stress, much less fear, anxiety, feel more freer. But anyway, when I did this test, I installed on my computer Solitaire, a card game, and you're supposed then to solve it. It's a bit tricky, and you should do it on time. So I did this 100 times over a couple of weeks, and every time before I started, I thought, okay, now I should pay attention to my breathing. I should focus on my breathing. I know these 5 principles. I should try and stay there. But I couldn't hold it for more than maybe 10 seconds. It was impossible. So I think that tells us a little bit how hard it is.
Right.
So yes, I think this is great. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm selling it.
No, but let's try. So
yeah.
what am I going to do? Just put it into my mouth and breathe?
Yes, so you inhale through your nose and out through the device, the relaxator. Yes?
I get so conscious. Let's see.
That's right, yeah. And then as you start to breathe, you should just have your shoulders still. Just relax. So no effort on the inhalation. Just let the air flow in. And then you have a resistance. So you can actually adjust the vent.
Oh, right.
So,
Okay, I
yeah.
see.
So you can get more resistance. So it's called the relaxator. So it helps you to relax, to calm down.
I feel like a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
But why do I need more resistance? Is it supposed to be like challenging to?
It doesn't have to be. You can use it in two different ways. Just as a, bread and butter way when sitting at a computer or driving a car or watching TV. You just have it there without paying so much attention to it. So that's one thing. To just keep the low and slow and rhythmical breathing. And the other thing is, because what it does is that it strengthens your breathing muscles. So if you want to, you can increase the resistance in order to strengthen your diaphragm muscle even more.
Okay.
So I tend to do that just occasionally.
But did you say that we should breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, or out through our nose? Because now I got unsure, because I'm breathing out through this.
So this is a training tool. So now when you put that in your mouth, you enter the training arena.
Okay.
Just like when you go to yoga, for example, it's very common to do different kinds of breathing exercises with different purposes. You have the breath of fire, where you breathe fast, and you have alternate nostril breathing and so forth. So when using this one, it's like you're doing an exercise. So with the relaxator, you inhale through your nose and out through the mouth. But when you...
in your everyday life?
No, when
No.
you're not using this, then
Yeah.
it's only nasal in, nasal out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see. So why did you become so fascinated and interested in this?
Well, I've always had a racing mind. That's the starting point. Since I was little, always trying to, achieve things, set new records, but didn't have the tool to calm down. I remember when I was 13, my personal best was 50,000 sit-ups in 1 month and 25,000 push-ups. And I think I was really hijacked by my mind. It ran the show totally. And alongside with the stressed mind, the more stressed I were, the more fear, the more anxiety. Those have been my companions. And when I shifted, I have a background in IT. I ran my IT company, and then I sold it, and I shifted to health, and I started to translate some books from English to Swedish, and it was health books. And then I came across a book about breathing and realized, wow, this is the most important thing of them all. This is more important than food, than water, than our thoughts. So then, since then, I've been hooked more or less. Yeah.
And how did it change your life?
Well, I finally found a tool. Because I changed my eating habits, my working habits, sleeping habits, thinking habits, and they've all helped me a great deal to reduce the stress, to be able to unlock the turbo. But by far, the most important tool has been to improve my breathing. Because, as I said earlier, we do it 1,000 times an hour.
But do you feel more energized?
Yes. More energy, better sleep, reduce stress, reduce anxiety.
So how does it reduce like the thinking pattern in a way? Because I'm thinking that yes, you can be present in your body, but perhaps your mind is still racing.
Yes, that could be the case, absolutely. And one, I guess there are several explanations to this, but if you look at the brain in normal breathing, you can see that there are activities. And then if you look at the brain after 1 minute of hyperventilation, you see that the activity has gone down a lot. And one reason for that is the carbon dioxide, as we talked about earlier. Not only does it kick off the oxygen from the blood, it also has the ability to widen the blood vessels. So when we are hyperventilating, we basically make our blood vessels more narrow. So less blood goes up to the brain, and the blood that goes up, if there is less carbon dioxide, well, then less oxygen leaves the blood. So the brain is then in a state of stress where it is less oxygenated.
And then you think more?
Well,
sometimes?
Yeah, because it's basically fighting for its own survival then. Because one study they did, they saw that they call it the the threshold, the action potential. In order for a nerve signal to fire, either to produce a thought or to move a muscle, there is this action potential. So an electrical charge needs to reach a certain level before there is a nerve signal firing. And when there were lower levels of carbon dioxide, the action potential was lowered. So not so much stimuli was needed in order for the nerve signals to fire. So that could be the monkey brain. When we have a low action potential because we are hyper ventilating, lowering the levels of carbon dioxide. So we basically need to look all the time for danger. We are in fight flight.
Because I think a lot, and I really want to slower my thinking.
Yeah.
Not slower my thinking, but think less, because I feel like I think so much,
Yeah.
and it's stressing me out. So by being more aware of my breath and practicing this, I can slow that down.
Yes, I think so.
Sounds good.
So my greatest experience of inner calmness, I know Buddha is claimed to have said that the only way to reach nirvana is through your breath. And if you look at the word in English, respiration, it means spirit, and respiration then means reconnection to spirit. And spiritual growth for me is the ability to calm down, to be able to reduce conflicts with people around you, to be able to see new patterns, to be able to be more friendly both towards yourself and towards others. And when I first was out, the first time when I was out jogging and only did nasal breathing and also counted steps, where I took more steps on the exhale than on the inhale, meaning that I slowed down my breathing as much as possible. And this means that the carbon dioxide in our body, the production increases when we are out, when we do physical activity. And when we run, then the production increases quite a lot. And if we at the same time reduce our breathing, which I did, so I did only nasal breathing, and I also took fewer breaths per minute. And when I came home, it was quite tough. I was out for about an hour, and I took maybe 2-3 steps on the inhale and 6 to 8 on the exhale. But I decided to go for it the whole way. And when I came home, I've never experienced that level of relaxation. Really, I mean, I guess that's the closest to nirvana I have been.
Wow, I'm gonna try that next time.
Yeah, please do, and tell me how it goes. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. We're going to do another interview in Swedish and
Yes.
Norwegian, but is it anything important you would like to add in the end?
Well, I started to talk about where we die because we get lack of oxygen, and then that leads to lack of energy. And if we can just finish off with that, the energy, I think that is so important. If we look at our society, and if we were to, pull the plug of a city, there would be total chaos because we are so dependent upon energy. And that goes for our body as well. We produce an amount of energy that is almost equivalent to our body weight in just one day. And when we then deprive our body slightly of oxygen, then we also deprive it slightly of energy, because we can produce energy in two ways, basically, with energy and without energy. So if you have a nutrient here, a glucose molecule, and you want to convert that to energy, and you do it without oxygen, you could only extract about 5% of the available energy. But when you do it with oxygen, you can extract up to 100%, which is then the explanation why we may suffer, we may feel tired, we have low energy, because we have ended up, when we deprive our body of oxygen, we have ended up producing more of the energy we need without oxygen. And of course, all the organs will suffer, the liver, the heart. The brain is the number one oxygen consumer, so that will suffer the most. Wow. And then it will enter into fight, flight, freeze mode, where we may have this monkey brain, the never-ending thoughts.
I'm just thinking there's so much potential for human beings to use so much more of what's actually available. Like we say that we use 10% of our brains. I don't know if everybody agrees on that, but some say that. And then you're saying we're not using all the energy we have. And just imagine if we did, like if we used our whole brain, our whole capacity of the energies that's there. I mean,
I
we
think
would
the
be kind of
potential is
superhumans.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And good luck with your wonderful work and workshops and writings and everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Jannecke.
And thank you so much for watching. And I can really recommend this book, The Power of Your Breath. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before. Much light from Oslo. Bye-bye.